Hello and you're welcome. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you're an old subscriber, you're welcome back, and if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. We are going to be making vanilla cake using three different recipes. This is a margarine based recipe, and this right here is an oil based recipe using any oil available to you. This is one of my favorite recipes because it is very moist. And the last recipe is also an oil-based recipe, which is my favorite. This is my best recipe. It's my go-to recipe as well. I love it so much because the cake is so fluffy and moist. It's very, very fluffy. We have all been there before when we have so much recipe, we don't even know which one to choose from. So after this video, you are going to choose which one is your favorite and which one is too easy to make. This right here is margarine based, and the first recipe we are going to be making. To make my vanilla cake, I'll be needing 250 grams of flour, which is also equal to 2 cups of flour. I'll be using 3/4 cups of sugar. To get your 3/4 cups of sugar, measure 3 of 1/4 cups. Then I'll be needing 2 grams of margarine. You can also use butter for this. I'll be needing ½ cup of milk, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of flavor, my vanilla flavor. I'll be using ½ teaspoon of salt, and then I'll also be adding 4 whole eggs. This is big eggs. If you are using small eggs, you can use 5 eggs. I will now start mixing my dry ingredients together. I will add in my ½ teaspoon of salt and my baking powder. I will mix this gently with the aid of my spatula. Then I'll put this aside. So for this vanilla cake, I'll be using my blender to mix all the ingredients together. I'll start by adding my 250 grams of margarine into my blender. I will only be using my blender to mix the wet ingredients. So after adding my margarine, I will add in my 4 whole eggs, big eggs. Then I will add in ½ cup of milk. I will add all my wet ingredients together, and I'll also add in my sugar as well. So adding the egg and the milk, we allow the butter and sugar to be able to mix well without any stress. Mixing the butter and sugar separately without adding any liquid to it might make your blender might destroy your blender. Okay, so adding the milk and the egg allow this to mix without any stress. So after adding this, I'm putting out on the top of the blender because the cover is not well sealed, so that's why I'm using it. So allow this to mix for 2 minutes and you check. Okay, this is not stress this much like I said earlier. So I'll be checking this after 2 minutes. This take about around 8 to 10 minutes. The total time used, it's about 8 to 10 minutes. So you want to mix this for 2 minutes, then you check. Then you scrape around your blender. You make sure you scrape all the butter around it. Then you mix again, you blend again. I'm going to check this now, and I just need a little bit more. This is already mixed well. I'm just going to allow this to mix for around 1 minute more. As long as you'll be checking this until you get your desired texture, the desired consistency you want, until the butter and everything is well mixed. I'm going to make this for around just like 1 minute more. So the total time you want to use for mixing this is around 8 to 10 minutes. After around 1 minute, I'm going to take this off. So I've got what I want. So I'm going to be pouring this inside my mixing bowl. Make sure you scrape all the sides to it. You don't want to waste anything. So I'm going to scrape in the sides of my blender. As you can see now, this is ready. When you are mixing, whether with your mixer or with hand, you notice that once you add in your egg to your butter and sugar mixture, this is around the consistency you are going to get. Okay, this is very easy. Just add in everything with your margarine, your sugar, your milk and your eggs. Add this to your blender and then you are going to mix this for around 8 to 10 minutes. So the next thing I'm going to do is add in my 2 teaspoons of vanilla flavor. You can also use any flavor of your choice. So I'll stir this together. So I didn't add the flavor. You can add it while mixing as well, but I didn't add it because I like adding it after. You see how creamy this looks. It even looks creamy as if we have poured in the flour and we have not. So this is the consistency you want. This is going to allow your cake to come out fluffy. So after adding my flavor, I'll be adding in the 250 grams of flour. Remember, I already mixed my 250 grams of flour with my baking powder and salt. So if you want to add any flavors as well, like nutmeg, I really don't like nutmeg in cake, but you can add nutmeg as well. So I'm going to divide the flour into two and mix the first, then I'm going to add the rest later. This is going to allow this to mix more. It won't allow it to have any lumps if you divide it like that. You need to allow it to incorporate well. So I'm going to mix the rest of my flour in and fold this in. You don't want to over mix. After adding your flour, you don't want to over mix the mixture. This, if you do, it's going to create air in your cake and we don't want that. So I'm just going to fold this in with the aid of my spatula. Make sure that there is no lumps. See how this creamy how this looks. So you can increase the amount of milk you want. Depends on how much you want your cake to. You can add around 3/4 cups of milk. Since I'm adding only 4 eggs, you can increase the quantity of milk. But if you are using around 5 to 6 eggs, do not increase the quantity of milk used. Okay, so I already greased my pan with the aid of my margarine and flour. I already greased this with flour, then I use flour to dust it. I will be pouring in my batter into my pan. So this batter is kind of thick even though I add milk. That's because I only use 4 eggs. So you can use 5 eggs. If it's a really small egg, you can use 6. So I'll be baking this in my oven. After pouring your batter inside the pan, bang it on the kitchen table to allow it to release all the air trapped inside. So I'm going to be baking this now in my oven. Ta-da! Oh my gosh, look at this cake. It's so fluffy, super fluffy. This is a cake I made around 15 minutes. Yes, it's very simple. I use my blender to mix everything. I just mix in my flour. It's very simple and easy to use. Oh look gosh, look at the cake. This is so fluffy. It's moist. Oh my god, it is very moist. how fluffy this is. Look how fluffy it is. And look at the look how level the cake is. It is level, no dum. So to bake this, you can use your pot for baking this. You can use your oven. If you want to learn how to bake with pots, or you want me to do a video on this, comment down below so I can make a video on how to bake with your pots. But this is so good. Believe me, look how fluffy it is. Please kindly subscribe to my channel. Now let's make the second recipe. This is also an oil-based recipe and you're going to love it. It is very moist and fluffy as well. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. This recipe I'll be needing 250 grams of flour, 3/4 cups of sugar, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'll be using 3 eggs. This is a big egg. I'll be using 3/4 cup of milk. You can also use buttermilk for this. I'll be using 1/2 cup of oil. You can use any oil of your choice. I'll be using 2 teaspoons of vanilla flavor. Let's start mixing. Okay, I'll be breaking in my eggs. So you can use 4 small eggs for this, or if you are using medium or large egg, 3 is very okay. So break in your eggs inside your mixing bowl, then you whisk this together with the help of your hand whisk, because we are not using any mixer this video. So make sure you whisk this together until it is well mixed. Then you add in your 3/4 cup of sugar. To get your 3/4 cups, measure 1/4, 3 of 1/4 cups of sugar. So make sure you whisk this together until it is well mixed and some of the sugar has dissolved. Once that happens, I'm going to be adding 1/2 cup of oil inside the mixture. We are using oil to replace the margarine or butter in this recipe. And I'm going to be adding in 3/4 cup of milk. This is whole milk. You can also use powdered milk mixed inside water. Use 3 tablespoons of powdered milk to 3/4 cup of water. Then I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla butternut flavor. You can also use any flavor of your choice for this. I'm going to mix this together. Then I'm going to be adding in my baking powder and salt inside my flour. This is 250 grams of flour. You can also use 2 cups if you do not have any scale with you. So I pour in 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Then I mix this together. Now it's time to add in your dry ingredients inside your wet ingredients. Divide this into 3 or 4 and then you add it little by little until everything is well mixed. This is to avoid lumps inside your batter. You can also use 1 cup of milk for this recipe if you want a more moist cake. So make sure you mix this well until everything is well incorporated and it is well mixed. You should have a creamy batter as this. Scrape in all the sides of the bowl and then you mix together so that everything will be well mixed inside. It's time to pour our batter inside our baking pan. Make sure you grease your pan with oil or margarine and then use flour to dust it. Then you add in your cake batter inside your greased baking pan. I'm going to bang this on my kitchen table to release any air bubbles that might be trapped inside. And there we go, having our amazing oil-based vanilla cake. To know how I make this red velvet cake and how I decorated this cake, I will put the video in the description box. Now let's make the third recipe. This is my personal favorite because it uses less batter and it is very fluffy and moist. Okay, so this is easy to make and it is the best recipe to use for small cakes. This is very fluffy. Look how fluffy it is. It is a sponge cake recipe and this will be the perfect recipe to use for your sponge cakes if you want a very fluffy cake. Okay. Kindly subscribe if you have not yet subscribed and check the description box for the list of recipes. I'll be needing only 1 cup of flour. I'll be using 3 eggs. Yes, 3 eggs for this recipe. Then I'm going to be using half cup of oil. Like I said earlier, no butter or margarine in this recipe. I'll be using half cup of sugar. I have in a 1 teaspoon of baking powder and half teaspoon of baking soda. Then I'll be using 1/3 cup of milk and 1 teaspoon of strawberry flavor. You can use any flavor of your choice for this. So I'm going to be using my blender to mix this ingredient together. First, I'm going to add in my sugar. This is half cup of sugar. Then my 3 whole eggs into this. This is medium eggs. You can also use large eggs or small eggs. If you are using small eggs, very small eggs, you can use 4 for this. So I'm going to pour that inside my blender as well. So I have in my sugar and my eggs. Then I'm going to add in my half cup of oil as well. Like I said, you can use wicks for this. You don't need to use blender. You can use your hand wicks to mix all of this together. Okay, this is just to make this easier. So when you are using your hand wicks, make sure you whisk this very well until it is very fluffy and all the 3 ingredients are well mixed. So I'm going to blend this now for about 2 minutes. So after 2 minutes, as you can see, this is well mixed. The eggs, the oil and the sugar. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is be adding my baking powder and baking soda into my flour. Half teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 cup of flour. I'll mix this gently together. Then I'm going to be pouring in my liquid mixture inside my mixing bowl. Make sure you scrape all the sides of your blender very well. After doing that, I'll be adding in my flavor. I'll be using 1 teaspoon of strawberry flavor for this. You can use vanilla, you can use any flavor of your choice. I'll gently whisk this together. Then I'll add in my 1/3 cup of milk. This is evaporated milk. You can use any milk of your choice, whether whole milk or filled milk. So I'll mix this gently. Then I'm going to be adding in my flour mixture. So I'm just going to Mix this by dividing the flour into two. Firstly mixing the first batch and then adding the second batch of flour. I'm going to mix this well together until the flour is well incorporated with the liquid mixture. So you want to stop when you get a creamy mixture like this, so you do not over mix your batter. Don't over mix. Once everything is well mixed, then you stop mixing. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed to my channel. I post new videos every week, at least 2 videos every week, and you do not want to miss it. So please subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you watch to the end to see how our vanilla cakes looks. So the next thing is I'll be pouring this inside a greased baking pan. I grease this with my margarine and I use flour to dust the inside. So you want to pour this inside your baking pan. Make sure the baking pan is well greased. If it is not well greased, your cake is going to stick to the pan and you do not want that. Make sure you scrape in all the sides of your bowl. You do not want to waste any of this batter. After doing that, bang your batter on your kitchen counter to release air bubbles. Then it is time to bake. Bake this in your oven until the toothpicks comes out clean. And we are done. This cake is now baked. This cake is so fluffy. This is a combination of a very fluffy cake and a moist cake, a very moist cake. Believe me, this cake is amazing. This is the best recipe you can use for your budget friendly cakes, for any cakes you want to use this for. This is the best cake recipe to use for your budget friendly cakes. Overall, these are all very nice recipes. If you need a sturdy cake for carving or when you need to stack a cake for wedding cakes, this is the best recipe to use because this is very sturdy and it's a very sturdy cake to use for carving or for stacking. Okay, you won't have any problem with this recipe if you use it in stacking wedding cake. The second recipe, which is an oil-based recipe, is a perfect cake also for sturdy cake, but the first one is more sturdy than this. This is also sturdy because it has less liquid content, less milk and less egg. But due to the fact that we use oil for this, it is also less sturdy than the margarine-based cake. But this recipe right here is my go-to recipe for small cakes. When you just want 1, 2 or maximum of 3 layers of cake, this is the best recipe to use. You don't use this recipe for stacking cakes because it is too fluffy to use. If you use this for stacking cakes, the cake is going to go down. It is fluffy and it is super moist, so you don't want to use this for stacking cakes, okay, because it's going to collapse. So when you want to stack your cakes for your wedding cakes or when you need to carve cake, you can use the other 2 recipes. But this is a perfect recipe for birthday cakes when you want to make very moist and very soft cakes. The other 2 recipes are moist as well, but this costs less than the rest of them and it is also more fluffier and more moist than the rest. And we have come to the end of the video. Please subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Please subscribe and check out my other videos. I'll be putting the link on the screen. You are going to see it on the screen. Yeah, that's right there. That's there. Please click on the video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.